All right, let's make a start, Danny.
Yep, sure.
Hello, everyone. Most of you know me. I'm Matt from Network Optix. On with us as well as Danny from Seagate. He's going to run through a good overview of what Seagate does and where it's at in the market. And then towards the end of the presentation, we're going to show you a couple of stress tests which we've done with Seagate, which are pretty impressive. Of 1,000 cameras running into one system, which is actually worth having a good look at, just to show really what NX and Seagate can do when we partner together. Yeah, so I'll hand it off to Danny.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks Matt. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Danny. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm the head of global business development for video surveillance segment, based in Singapore, as we discussed earlier. So I'm responsible for establishing partnership with new emerging partners, and also working very closely with Network Optix globally. So in my session today, for the first half, I'm going to share more about what Seagate is doing and what are we, how do we work with Network Optix, and at the same time, what is our portfolio when it comes to storage? Because as you know, a lot of people know us as the hard disk drive manufacturer, but I want you to take away of this presentation knowing more about Seagate, a different side of Seagate. So probably next slide. Yep, next slide, please. So I want to start off with global data explosion. So when you talk about storage, you always start off with data, right? I mean, for the past few years, we've been working very closely with IDC, right, in actually carrying out survey and reports. And one of the key things that we got from out of the report is really there will be massive amount of data generated in the next few years, right? From CY12 to CY25, right? You can see that such a big explosion of growth of data created. In fact, by 2025, you will have about 175 zettabytes of data created. So, well, I always refer to people knows terabyte, people knows gigabyte, people knows to extent petabytes, but what is actually zettabytes? So 1 zettabyte is actually 1 billion terabytes. So that's a lot of data that being created. But I want to reference you to the right side. If you look at the data created versus the data actually being stored, it's just about 10% of the data being stored today and in the future as well. But why is that the case, right? You will ask that if data is getting more valuable, it should be stored more, it should be managed, but the challenge is on the data storage costs, at the same time data management and also data security. So that's why, I mean, technology companies like Seagate and a lot of the companies out there are actually trying to look into this market and see what can we do to unveil the potential of the data, right? Because in order for people to store more, you need to make sure that the data is being actually utilized. Next slide, please. So in surveillance, I think we all know that video is one of the key driver of storage, and also one of the key part of the unstructured data, right? When you talk about growth of data, a lot of data is actually growth. I mean, it's actually unstructured data growth. So unstructured data can be ranged from your video, your audio, your big files, right? Very different from the traditional database type of files. So today, a lot of technologies that are being implemented in video surveillance, like AI, like video analytics, right? Big data are really trying to utilize the data that's being collected from videos and making use and making sense of that. So we see the role of video surveillance changing. In fact, we've been talking about video surveillance used beyond security for many years. But I think that the drivers moving forward is really going to drive this forward, because I mean, a lot of things at the time when we know video analytics a few years ago, right? We say that, well, surveillance is going to go beyond security. But yet there's still a lot of challenges with that technology. But I think right now with AI, there are just many factors, like um, the camera is getting cheaper, storage is getting cheaper, right? A lot of processing power is getting more affordable, so it's getting much cheaper. So a lot of these are going to help drive the adoption and that's the expansion of the use cases as well. Next slide. So what is Seagate doing in this space? So basically Seagate, our mission and our vision is really, we wanted to basically craft the data sphere. So basically we wanted to make sure that people can actually store more of the data that's being collected. We believe all the data has this value, right? In fact, one of the recent events that we did virtually, right? We actually invited a lot of CIOs to come on our panel. And most of the CIO actually cited that if, let's say, a company know how to utilize their data better, right, actually has resulted in either an increase of revenue or increase of their profit. Because a lot of data today is being collected, end up not being used, and just, I mean, go to waste. I think in video surveillance, a lot of the data today is being stored and then collected and stored for a period of time, and it will just being recycled. If you don't really need it, you don't really need it. You don't really use it. But actually, a lot of this has a lot of insights on making sure that you have the trending and all those things. So we would like to support the goal of or the way that people should store more and make sure that they can harness the data from it. So a lot of the things that we are focusing today or moving forward from Seagate perspective is actually driving towards this vision and our mission, right? So we are creating technologies that allow people to enable mass capacity, store a lot more storage. So we can make full use of the data collected. Next slide. So as mentioned, many people know Seagate for many years, more than 40 years. We've been in the industry for more than 40 years. Many people know us as a hard disk drive manufacturer. In fact, we are still a hard disk drive manufacturer. Hard disk drive is actually our core business. But the one thing that that a lot of people may not actually know is that we are also a provider of enterprise storage system, right? Enterprise storage system that you might see used in the big projects or big large deployment, like centralized storage solution. Previously, our go-to-market mostly focusing on OEMs. So even though we've been shipping more than 1 million of these systems out there into the market, but really we only started promoting our own brand of storage solutions in less than 2 years, right? So we just started this journey, but it's definitely a proven solutions that we've been going to market through the major OEMs that you will find in the market. Because when it comes to storage system, the storage controller technology, the disk drive, it's just not a lot of players that actually build the core of the solution. So Seagate is one of them. In fact, we are the only end-to-end provider of enterprise storage systems, right? That means we build anything from the component that goes into the hard disk drive, to the controller of the box, to the box itself, right? So it's really an end-to-wire kind of approach that we are taking, right? So Seagate actually would build the total solution. We actually deliver the solution to the customers. Customers take the solution knowing that it's going to work out of the box. And secondly is they're getting the latest and greatest technology that we built, because a lot of the OEMs out there, they do take the drive from us and they integrate it themselves. But we are really the core provider of all these things, because we are, especially when it comes to mass capacity storage. So Seagate focus only on storage systems when it comes to this part of the market. We believe that these solutions are very well suited for multiple server, right? High camera count type of solutions when it comes to video surveillance that goes very well with Network Optix, the VMS, right? It provides 5 nines, very, very high reliability, very good data protection. So basically we provide mass capacity, right? We have solutions that can allow you to scale up to petabytes of storage, right? So be it for smart city, be it for a prison or for your next body cam cameras projects, right? Or your solutions that you require long-term retention. I think we have the solutions that can provide the offerings into the market. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, many people know us as the devices manufacturers. That means we have a portfolio of hard disk drive and SSD. You know Seagate probably through our products called the Skyhawk. Skyhawk is our hard disk drive optimized for video surveillance. The big difference between video surveillance drive and other drive is optimized for recording. It's optimized for sequential recording to make sure that the frame is being captured and there's no frame loss, right? We have a whole suite of products that goes into a server and goes into a storage, right? That a lot of the players out there is actually been using for many years. But as mentioned, very little that people know that we have an enterprise storage portfolio that consists of a SAN storage, or all-flash array, and a JBOD. Our SAN storage is also a hybrid array. That means you can mix and match between a hard disk drive-based storage, or you can put in some SSD and it can become a hybrid storage that provides you much higher performance for your next projects that require AI and also video recording. Okay, next slide, please. A little bit more about our storage system portfolio. We have 3 types of products over here, right? We have Exhaust E, which is actually a JBOD. So JBOD stands for just a bunch of drive. So today, if you look at any JBOD, it is either connected directly to a server, right? Or it goes very close, it goes along with the SAN storage. We have product that range from entry level 2U12 bay to 5U84 bay to the world largest density 1 box 4U and 106 drive in it. So our 4U106 is the largest density in 1 box, right? 1 box itself, you can get about 1.7 petabytes, just 1 box, right? Nobody can actually do at a high density as this, because if you look at the box itself, there's 100 overdrive operating at the same time. There's a lot of engineering works. A hard disk drive manufacturers, because JBOD is actually primary hard disk drive. So you want to make it work because all of this is actually operating at the same time. To make sure that the drive is reliable is actually the core competencies of the hard disk drive manufacturer. So that's why we are able to build such a high density storage. So I know that in some project right now, a lot of customers even looking at cloud storage, right? Even looking at long-term storage. These are some of the solutions that can go into this market. Exhaust X is our RAID storage, or sometimes you will hear a word called block storage. So block storage or SAN storage actually is very, very high performance, high redundancy, very high reliability, active solutions that go into as a shared storage for your solution. We have 2U12, we have 5U84. And the next one is application platform. But again, application platform is actually our storage that comes with server on top of it. But you may ask that, are we using those storage to install a Network Optix VMS? The answer is no. The application platform, even though they have server on the storage itself, the server actually is meant for software-defined storage. As you know, right now, a lot of in the IT world, a lot of companies, a lot of big projects already started to move beyond enterprise architecture. They have moved to what we call software-defined storage, like hyper-converged infrastructure, object-based storage. Those you need, instead of using a hardware-based controller, you're using software, right, which is on a server, that reside on the server. So application platform is basically used for that purpose, right? We see more opportunity with the JBOD and the RAID storage in the normal projects, But if you have really big projects that require even like cloud storage, so that's where you will see the application platform might be a good target moving forward. Next slide, please. Yeah, next slide. If you look at how our products being used, it can start from small, like even with our JBOD, with a server directly connected to a JBOD. In a usual mid-range type of application, like less than 500 cameras, you might have a couple of server, right, connected to a switch and connected to a SAN storage that provide you expansion. You can start from small, right, just 1 2U12, but you can scale up to like 768 terabytes. That is more than sufficient for some of the projects. Next click, please. Then you have larger deployment, like 1,000 cameras. In such projects, sometimes customer might want to use technology like hyperconverged, new solutions like hyperconverged infrastructure, where you can actually use our JBOD, right, connected to a server. There's a software to manage the server, right, to manage the storage itself. So basically, provide very high automation to the solution. But I believe that we are seeing a lot more solution, a lot more focus on the multiple server with SAN type of solution, right? There's on the slide here, you will see that there'll be a couple of servers. Let's say you have servers with NS Witness, right, VMS on it, and it can connect it whether it's physical or virtually on a virtual machine. It can connect to a network switch and then connect it to our SAN storage. Our SAN storage can be expanded further, right? You can actually add on additional storage systems, and it can go up to like 5.3 petabytes of storage. So you can actually provide a very long retention to your video, right? And the most important thing is you can actually scale, because I'm sure that you have come across projects that may require scalability, right? We have come across a lot of partners that at the first sizing or staging, they factor in this storage, but end up not sufficient. There's some of the issues using a server, right? Your server, you only have limited storage on the server itself. If you want to scale, only the storage, not the compute, that becomes a problem. But having a solution like this, you can easily scale as you need, right? As you need to require, as you add more cameras, add more workload to it. Next slide, please. I wouldn't talk too much about cloud solutions. I think in the larger deployment, people started to use software-defined storage. You probably heard people talking about object-based storage and all those things. We see more and more projects like Bodycam, like a lot of these smart city projects. They are started to move away from the traditional enterprise storage type of architecture. A lot of them wanted to use they wanted to use similar technology as like Google, Amazon, or Microsoft, when they use a cloud. So for those, you cannot achieve by using the traditional enterprise architecture. You really need to use a software, right, to manage the solution. So this is where I think that the storage will play a very important part, because in such deployment, commodity storage and server is actually often being used for the deployment. So it can be used to provide a very high scalability and solutions over here. Yeah, next slide. So when it comes to integration with NX, I mean, we've been working with NX globally, I think for the past 2-3 years, right? I mean, before we focus on our storage systems, we focus primarily on integration and partnership on our hard disk surveillance optimized hard drive, because I know that partners like you all do use, I mean, the drive to build your appliance, right? Be it NUC, Intel NUC, or be it a PC appliance with an NS Witness on top of it, or server, right? So on the left side, we've been working very closely with Network Optix on our Skyhawk health monitoring. So today, if you're using your own appliance and you're using Network Optix, right? Basically, we have a Skyhawk health actually integrated with Network Optix. I mean, integrate with Network Optix, which means that we can actually pull the data from the hard drive, monitor the health of the drive, and making sure that the drive is working well, because one of the key pain point that a lot of people is actually concerned with is the drive is failed, right? The drive will fail. If the drive got problem, right, what will happen to the data? So I think Skyhawk help provide the insights to the customers when you use it together with the Network Optix and X-Witness. But of course, recently we started to work with Network Optix, which I think we will focus some of the time later on to go through as well, is our testing with Network Optix on the centralized video storage, which is our storage system. So we have done testing using a multiple server, right, with Network Optix VMS to our storage system. Our goal is to make sure that to understand what will be the throughput and the performance and how many cameras that we can actually support in order to kind of stress test our storage systems, which we will share later. One of the things that I want to highlight on our drive side, which is we just rolled out recently, is we actually incorporated our data recovery. So right now, I mean, as you know, when you use an NVR or VMS appliance, the drive, the data on the drive is very, very critical, right? If the drive failed today, right, if you don't have a backup, if you need the data, what do? You will bring to a data recovery companies. But very often, a lot of people will not go to this option because it is extremely expensive for you to do a data recovery, right? Just any provider of data recovery in Australia that you can go and check, it ranges from a couple of $100 to $1,000, depends on how you do it. So recently, starting from October, all our Skyhawk drive that we sold to the customers comes with a data recovery embedded into the drive. That means if you use the drive and you have any issue with the drive because the drive failed, being vandalized by the robbers and all those things, right, call us, pass it back to us, we will be able to recover the data for you, right? That is part of our drive offerings. Seagate is the only manufacturer in the world that do our own hard drive and do our own data recovery, all in-house. There's no external party involved. It's all Seagate ourselves, right? So I think that's one key thing that worth to highlight from a drive perspective. But I think today the key focus is really on the centralized storage, the storage portfolio. I think we'll talk a little bit more after this. Next slide, please. Yep, the rescue. Yep, next. So why should you consider network storage or shared storage, right? A lot of time I see a lot of people use server with a lot of drive in it. But the thing is, there's always pros and cons. Maybe the price is cheaper, right? But from a total cost of ownership, scalability perspective, there are always going to be some downside of it. Number one, you should consider network storage or shared storage because you can add storage as you need, scalable. There's no single point of failure because our storage system has active dual controller to manage the performance, to manage the data coming in. It's true enterprise class. That means we'll provide 5 nines, high availability, high reliability. It provides scalable performance. Our storage system can support up to 5.5 gigabytes per second throughput on a single storage system. So most of the time, the performance, if you add workload. For storage, when you say add workload, it's really when you add more cameras, more resolution, more AI, that add workloads to your storage because you're adding more. Because we all know that camera continue to stream data, whether you set as 5 frames per second, 1080p, or you set a 4K 25 frame, it's still stream. So, but if you change the resolution, change the frame rate, add more AI, then your workload needs to be able to scale, right? So our storage system, we have very high performance that allow the customers to not need to actually add on more storage system, but basically you can actually scale as you need when it comes to the solution. But the most important thing is cost of ownership. Stand storage is always going to be a good solution when it comes to customers wanting something very more reliable, but provide a better density, better rack space, less power, high performance, right? So I think high throughput performance is very important for video surveillance, for projects. High availability and durability is very important because I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. It's easy to manage because I know that surveillance players, some of them are not really like IT, so it has to be very simple. Our storage systems is very easy to set up. So basically, if the moment you go into our interface, it only needs to take you 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes for you to set up a storage provision or storage. So it's very simple, very straightforward, a lot of graphical user interface, a lot of UI, right, that you can actually help you with the setup. Next slide, please. Yep, the market is changing. I think there's no one size fits all. There will always be market that wanted to buy a DVR and VR, embedded DVR and VR, right? I think that's a great solution for some. But there are also markets that are actually rapidly evolving, right? That we are seeing more commercial markets, enterprise market embracing storage system, embracing VMS. In fact, like solutions like Network Optix, NS Witness, because of their advantage of being so light, right? You can literally go into a lot of smaller solutions that you can even replace some of the DVR and VR type of solution, right? So I think that will be a lot of opportunities. We see that storage continue to grow. I think the solutions like shared storage will be a great fit for this market. Next slide. Yep, I think everybody knows this in terms of why data is important and why storage is important. So next slide. Yep, I want to talk about this for a couple of minutes, then we can pass it over, right, to talk about the stress test. So when you think about Seagate in terms of our storage systems, think about the 4 pillars, right? Safe. Basically, our product is optimized for streaming because number one, when you talk about streaming, very important, there are 2 key things that they actually deliver the high throughput performance, which is equal to better streaming, is the hard disk drive performance, right? Because recording is always going to be more sequential throughput. That means you're going to write more and you're not IOPS. IOPS is really more towards random workloads. So hard disk drive is very important, and also the controller performance. We built both of them, right? So we actually able to do that. And through the stress test later, you will see how we are able to actually achieve the 1 pillar, right? That's why I won't go through too much details on this. The second one is data protection. So everybody should knows that this drive is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We just announced 18 terabyte. It's not going to be too long that we'll announce 20 over 30, 40. But the one general fear here is really, what if you roll out 30 terabyte? I can't use it because the rebuild time is going to kill me, right? I'm going to need to use RAID as a data redundancy. But what if the drive fail, right? How long will it need to take for me to rebuild the drive? So that's a general fear. A lot of people will have concern because when the drive rebuilt, the performance will drop when it comes to your recording. So that's why we have a technology called ADAPT. So ADAPT is based off a technology called erasure coding. So it provides more than 90% faster rebuild than RAID, right? We do not do redundancy. We do not have drive parity. So in this type of solution, is what it means is if the drive fail, we will, because we allocate a space for each of the drive, we'll spread out the risk across all the drive. So it will actually do a self-healing. So that's why our rebuild time is very, very fast compared to the normal RAID type of configuration. In fact, this technology is actually similar to what a lot of the cloud storage guys are using. You'll notice that a lot of the data centers today that using cloud storage, they don't use RAID anymore. RAID serves the purpose for some application, but as the data continue to grow, you need a different approach, different solutions for your data protection or data redundancy. The third pillar is first to market. So Seagate, because we actually build our own storage, build our own hard drive. So if you buy today from an OEM providers, you buy a storage system from a big brands, right, out there. Very often they take drive from us, take drive from our competition, and they will actually qualify it for a period of time before they make it available for you. But when it comes to first to market, if you work with us, you're gonna be trust that we will use our first enable a solutions to our solution. So enable the storage systems, storage capacity and technology first to our solution. So you will always get the first to the market, right? Which equals to high density, lower cost, total cost of ownership. The last one is security, right? We know there's a growing need for security in the video surveillance space. You have camera with AES encryption, you have NVR solution or VMS with AES encryption. Very often people miss out the part is on the storage systems, right? So basically we have a data at rest, data encryption, we have key management on our storage system that provide very high data security, right? Against, well, it can protect against smash and grab. That means you can take out the drive, people cannot view the data, or you can actually erase the data at the end of the life cycle. Let's say you have a project today, it's at the end of the 5 years. You have the data on the hard drive. You have the customers wanted to change the systems. You want to erase the data on the drive. You can do so. Usual way is you can do so by formatting it. But formatting is just going to take a long time, and you usually have to format it more than once. But if you use an encryption drive, you can easily secure, sanitize, and erase the drive within seconds, and that will leave no trace, right? That will be the ISO standard type of data erasure that usually you might actually need to get third party to do it, because by using a third party, which you need to pay, right? So with it, you don't need to. So these are the 4 pillars where I would like to share with all of you today in terms of technology. If you're interested more, we can reach out to us. We can share more about each of this in detail. I think, Matt, that's all that my piece. We can go through the stress test. Yeah.
Yeah, I get to talk. Thanks. Okay, so as we said before, we've done a couple of stress tests with Seagate, which they've been doing in the background. It's actually been pretty interesting. So as you can see there, we've stress tested 2 systems, each with 1,000 cameras on it. One using just standard HD, and then the other one using 4K cameras, just to see what sort of results we can get. And they were, pretty impressive. So the goal of the test was simple: to test the limits of what the density storage array could do in combination with NX Witness. You're running virtualized machines, centralized storage. It was a pretty comprehensive test run in partnership between Seagate and us. The goals are literally just to see, as I said, what we could actually do in partnership with each other. Systems are getting bigger and bigger, and whether we could put 1,000 cameras on, going into one storage array was a pretty important thing to see if we could do that. So this is the technology that we used. Danny might know more about these bits and pieces than I do, because he might have been part of it as well. But we used a Dell PowerEdge rack server running Linux. We running Ubuntu. We run better on Ubuntu. It's also free. It's always nicer. You can see there running 2 Intel Xeon Gold 1632 CPU, 384 gigabyte of memory, and a 10 gigabit NIC. So that's it there. So each host, was running core switch ports, Seagate EOX X. How do you pronounce that one, Danny? Exos network connectivity provided to the NX Witness VMs. It was all pretty well done. The storage array. Do you want to go through that one there, Danny?
Yeah, so we actually have 2 servers, right, set up with a virtualized virtual machines or VMware. Set up to record to a centralized storage. So we have all the whole 84 bay populated, right, fully populated. and we actually set it up as adapt. Remember just now I talked about adapt is our own erasure coding technology, right? To be able to test like other than rate. I mean, we even tested, we actually take out one of the drive out of the array when it's in operation and there's no performance impact, right? So later on when you look at the test results and the test report, you will see more. Yeah.
So this is all the technology and the builds that we were using just to make sure you understand where we were. So we were running the latest build of NX. We used a camera emulator. Obviously, we weren't going to plug in 1,000 cameras because that would be ridiculous. We were running 18.04 Ubuntu and Windows Server 2016. So as you can see there, you're running 10 virtual machines, NX1 through to NX10, and then, sorry, went back too far, and then everything running through. So on the virtualized machines, Ubuntu 18.04 LTS, NX Witness, CPU, 8 gig of RAM, and 50 gig of storage on each machine. CCTV switch running through to the camera emulators from there, using the Seagate 5U84 storage at the top. So scenario 1, emulate 1,000 full HD dual streaming IP cameras using testcam. Primary stream was full 1080p at 30 frames per second. Secondary stream was 480 by 272 at 7 frames per second. Each NX server configured to capture 100 cameras. So as you probably know, NX can do 128 cameras per server, but we just did it at 100 just to make it nice and easy. Each NX server storage pointed to shared 5U84 as default storage default recording location. That all makes sense, I hope. The test results. Over the course of testing full 1,000 full HD cameras, on average CPU usage was at 43%, on average throughput of 735 megabits per second. Drop frames, which is obviously the important bit, was 0.001%, which is a 99.999% successful capture rate. You can't ask for more than that. Like, you really can't. That was, a pretty successful test by any measure. So as you can see there, over the 10, we've got the first 8 servers there, but 100 cameras, 0.01% on the first server, and almost nothing over the next ones. 735 megabits running through each server, and the CPU usage kind of varied between all the servers. Next test was 1,000 4K cameras. As you can see there, running very similar sort of what we're doing in the first one, except obviously the resolution's a lot higher. So we've gone from 1080p resolution to 3,840 by 2,160, still at 30 frames per second. The secondary stream's at VGA, which is 640 by 360. We ran it pretty much the same as we did with the first one. So each server's capturing 100 cameras. We're still using the 5U84 as a default storage location, fully populated with the 84 8 terabyte drives. We did this over a 24-hour period, recording for the full time. Over the course of the 24-hour period of the 4 cameras, on average CPU usage was at 89%, so a bit higher obviously. Average throughput of 1,488 megabits per second, 0.005 drop frames. So that's still 99.99% successful frame rate capture. Still, by any standard, a very successful test.
Yeah, I think just to add on, Matt, I think what I've seen in industry standard is Some providers, they have a tolerance level of 0.5, 0.7 percent frame rate. I mean, or definitely less than 1%. Definitely less than 1%. Most of them will tolerate 0.5 to 0.7. So I think anything that 0.0, yeah, zero. I think it's very, very much because of, the storage system is connected to networking and all those things. There might be other factors, but definitely it's a good result that so far that we've tested.
I mean, I can only talk from the experience I've had in some of the other manufacturers that we've dealt with, and I can tell you some of the manufacturers have a lot higher drop frame rate than that.
Yeah. The tolerance level is different, right? So I see that some
Yeah.
0 point something.
I actually did a bakery once where they were monitoring bread going past, and every so often you just miss bread. You're like, there's supposed to be a frame there, but it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
So as you can see there, over the 8 servers that are showing there, 1,323 megabits all the way up to 2,692 megabits per second. Average CPU usage, you got 89 all the way down to 73, depending on the server. Conclusions. What we tend to think is using a better hard drive can reduce your downtime. He talked about it before, Danny talked about it before, people still ask about RAID all the time. It's time to start rethinking RAID. It's not really as relevant as it used to be. There are better ways to do things. So, I only had a spec come through to my desk this morning, and they're asking for RAID 5. And they sit there going, there are better ways to do that now. So, ask the questions of, myself and Danny. There's another guy on the call as well called Michael Batty, who's, the Seagate here in Australia. That ask the questions of your supplier. Is there a better way that we can do this? Yeah, there is. What's your think on that one, Danny?
I think that it needs a lot of education. Generally, in video surveillance space, I think that because there are many different type of people involved, right? Like I know in some region we have consultants that is focusing on M&E security, right? But the way you're right, a lot of bigger projects right now is getting IT involved. So definitely a lot of them are more open to, because if you want to talk about data protection, none of the cloud storage, none of the software-defined storage is using any RAID, not at all, right? If RAID is a form of data protection, then there's actually missing out a lot of opportunities because there are obviously new technology, more technology that is more efficient, right? But in small deployment, is RAID good? I think yeah, it serves the purpose, especially with small drives. But it has to take a different approach moving forward. If you build another solutions for some of the projects, especially critical infrastructure projects, large scale projects, I think we need to probably work together to educate the market. What are the other options? Just one thing, our storage system all can support RAID, okay? But of course, it's the choice of the customers whether to use it together with RAID and adapt or use adapt, right? But the thing is, sometimes I do understand that when it comes to tender and also requirement, it's written there RAID. So sometimes it's a matter of compliance, right? So you need to actually educate that. And we're more than happy to work to see what is required to better educate them, because I think this is a much better solutions to offer, and it provides a better, a less downtime, right? Because you don't want to have the system to be performing half of the performance when the drive fail and doing a rebuild. And that's the case with any system out there, because you have two controllers. Let's say the RAID fail, you have to rebuild, you put a drive in, you have to rebuild. So one of the controller will be doing anything to rebuild this drive, right? So that you only have one controller working. So then you will, if anything happens, your performance or anything, you might have drop frame, you might have all those things. So it has to be, you need to think about it. What is the new approach?
Yeah, agreed.
Yep. So this is probably the last one before we end. If there's any Q&A, so we have some reports that we actually posted on the website. We also recently did a virtual event. I would encourage everyone, if you're interested, to know more. Scan the QR code, go to our website, go and look at the videos. In fact, Network Optix was one of our partners as well that participated in this event. Definitely a lot more than surveillance. We have combination of session on surveillance, as well as, I think the one that's more beneficial to everyone is really the insights that you can hear from the CIOs, you can hear from the other industry about data, right? And cloud trends, because cloud is really coming in surveillance, right? In fact, it is it's already happening in some region that I work with. BSARs, all those things is going to be solutions that a lot of people will be looking at, because your customers may have a cloud first strategy, even not the system integrator, but the end user might have a cloud first strategy. What is cloud first strategy? Maybe they have already moved to cloud. They want to have some sort of cloud solution, right? So maybe they will come to you and ask, can I have a cloud solution rather than have on-premise and such things? So these are the things that we will probably need to understand and learn more. It's a journey. So in this sort of event, it can provide you with some insights that we can learn. Especially, I think this is very much required in this industry.
Yeah. If there's any questions from anyone, feel free to raise your hand or send a Q&A, which is in your thing. But thanks, Danny, for that presentation. It was good.
Thanks, Matt, for the invitation. I think this is good.
All of you have my contact details. I can see everyone on the list. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions and bits and pieces. I'll put you in contact with Seagate if you have any particular questions on what you're looking to do. But yeah, there's some good stuff there. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much, guys.
Have a great day.
Bye.